Conversation. Does anyone have any questions?
I thought the video, I didn't see it as the Sxsw reel as you call it, so I didn't see the action videos. So I'm sure they're excellent, but I guess my question is for brands that want to create awesome videos. My question is like, who cares? You know, like when I think I want to watch something entertaining, I don't say, what is GE doing? Mm-hmm. So like, how do you make the videos important? To whatever objective that might be, whether it's humanity, social good, or profit, whatever it is. But like, how do you make it like so that I'm actually seeking it out? Or when I think of a brand, not a media publisher in the traditional sense, like a place where I would look for content.
Yeah, deep question. I think it's a great question. So we are very, in terms of our story, we are fairly agnostic about where that story is told. And when we think about how do we, that's what we think about, how are we adding value to the audience? So, you know, if we work with Sxsw Science and we're able to get them on the phone with scientists who are working on the future of 3D printing and it's a story that they want to tell, that's where the value is, if they think it's valuable for their audience. We work with Sxsw guys and we're able to get them into labs to run science experiments in ways that they couldn't before, and they see the value there for their audience, that's what matters. You know, same with the dancer. Because of the setting, because he was in a jet engine test cell and it just looked really cool. By the end of that video, Nonstop and his team were like, we want to come shoot at more locations because these are awesome locations. That's how we think about it. And then I think over time, the promise of the GE content experience is that you're going to get something of value in the experience with the voice, the creator that you know and love and trust, and we're just here to help that.
Yeah, and I think for us too, like, we are always trying to think of ideas and how to make videos, and so I think when it comes to a brand having something to say, something like GE, for example, like when we went to Munich and we started to learn about wind energy, we never could have actually been able to tell like the story and get the information that we got unless we sat down and spoke with someone who actually is doing something really fascinating and good for the environment, and like that was easy for us to get behind. So I think for us too, like there are specific brands that can work really well for us, and essentially just getting us the right information that we need to make a video that is going to be maybe that much better, as opposed to us just, you know, the research papers online or like through the paid journals that we subscribe to.
And I think it's the same question like for us in terms of like, lots of people say like, who cares about science? And so like in the same way that a brand can find a way to entertain people and then give them the information that they want. I mean, as long as you're creating content that is interesting, then I think you've kind of accomplished that. Yes, you may not actively seek out GU or you may not actively seek out Sxsw Science, but if we can like intersect with your life in a positive way, for us that might be by finding something that you're interested in and then giving you the science around that. I think that's a similar thing that GU would try to do is sort of, you know, find that intersection, and then we all have a positive experience, and then that's like an awesome way to reach a consumer.
And when you guys, I believe in that when you guys work together, the distribution, the videos you're making are actually, some of them are on the GE channel, but some of them are on your channel, right? Where, you know, the expectation of the viewer is just give me something awesome, not this is a video from GE. Is that right?
Yeah, like for our videos, it is hopefully that they're coming to see because they just love interesting stuff, and then hopefully we're presenting the GE elements in a way that still is engaging to them and isn't, you know, oh gosh, we're just here to watch a commercial, because that's like our biggest fear. It's like we don't want our audience to feel that we've just like sold them to a sponsor who's just going to talk about corporate stuff that they don't want to hear. So yeah, I'd say for us it is about keeping it interesting and taking the most amazing aspects of a company like GE and then incorporating them into our content.
Thanks for the question, by the way. Great question.
As a researcher, very often brands will come to researchers or agencies and they want to test creative, and they'll come up with, you know, version A, B, C, and tweak. In a week, you don't have time to do that. Or do you? Do you test? Or you just say, let's just go with it, let's go with our bet and cross fingers?
I'm not sure if I fully understand the question, but I think, are you, like, so we aren't, like, we were scientists maybe, but like at this time we're science communicators, so we're relying on like research and published peer-reviewed journals to synthesize information more than actually collect data. So if someone came to us and asked us to like like solve a problem. I mean, our solution will be to go to see if there's other information out there that like other scientists in the world have been looking into.
We're talking about testing videos.
Yeah, testing videos versus if I were a brand doing a print campaign, I would probably test the print campaign creative multiple times before I push it out there. Do you ever test your creative to say,
To, like,
so
see
you
if
can
it's
explain
working?
it this way versus this way?
Right. I mean, the amazing thing about YouTube is like the cost of distribution is basically zero for us, and so the test is every week we kind of see how a video does. I mean, I know we've mentioned it a couple times now, but that dress video we released a few weeks ago to explain the science behind the dress, and it is now our most watched video ever. And I mean, that in itself was instant indicator of like how integrating science and pop culture is like a really interesting aspect of what we do and what we should be looking at more. And so I think for us, yeah, the weekly test for us is to figure out, okay, what are people responding to? You can look at likes and comment ratios and whatnot. And I think, yeah, every week we're testing, but I'm not sure that we do it so intentionally as much as we definitely listen to our audience.
What about Jeannie? How do you guys think about that?
Yeah, we test.
Test the lanes.
We definitely test the lanes. Vengeance. I think, you know, in a similar fashion, we get a lot of feedback from running the content and seeing what people respond to. I think there's optimization that happens when we look at things like social ads and editorial ads, and that has generally more to do with some of our editorial content rather than video. So it's a mix of both.
Cool. Thank you for the question.
Thanks. With audience attention span being where it's at, do you have recommendations for video creators and brands on how to really capture the audience quickly, or maybe specifically length of time for optimal videos?
I really believe that there's no specific time. I mean, there are definitely videos that go viral that are like 20 minutes long. And so I think the true answer is like if it's engaging and it's interesting and for that length of time, then it should be that length. And for us, we always say that we're like, we'll keep it as long as it has to be, as long as it's interesting. As soon as we're putting too many details that are going to bog down sort of a layman who's never heard of this before, we have to rip those pieces out, as long as it still makes sense. But
Yeah, and I think that the concept of that is expanding a lot as YouTube is growing. I think we definitely, we would be lying if we didn't say at the beginning, we thought a lot about them being short. We wanted them to be short videos because we thought the same thing, or maybe what you're thinking, which is that the attention span on YouTube is, very short. But as it's grown, and as we've sort of, spent all of our time researching how YouTube's working, it's pretty amazing to see how some videos that are much longer are becoming really popular and growing sort of with this idea that people are going to sit down and watch YouTube for long periods of time. So I think if you're a creator or if you're a brand, you just really have to think about not eliminating things that are going to make the video good and make the video something that you think people are going to want to watch. And I know it sounds like such an obvious statement, but it's amazing how many people try YouTube, and we'll talk to people because a lot of people come to us for advice, and you see that their process is a lot of trying to figure out all these different trends and things that are going on with other successful channels, and not actually thinking, wait, what am I doing that is good? What am I doing that is different, or that is actually valuable and is essentially like creating a video that people are going to want to sit and watch all of?
What about when you guys think about the first 5 seconds of a video or a thumbnail? That's your movie poster. And then the first 5 seconds are when someone is going to decide if they're going to stay on or stay off. Like, how do you guys think about that opening?
Yeah, definitely the thumbnail and title are like your most important bet. You have to engage people there, and I mean, we try not to resort to like clickbait, but you also have to engage someone to get them in the video. And for us, the motive is like to get them interested in that science. And we learned early on by using our analytics, like the longer our intro was, the faster the drop off was in terms of as soon as we got to the point in the question of the episode, then it would even out and people would stick around. But if we kind of dilly-dallied in our intro to kind of like not really talk about the question at hand, then people will kind of like, no, this video is like what I'm here for. And so certainly timing is important. And
we learned about language too, which is if you can pose a question that's almost directly asking the viewer, as opposed to using words like they, referencing, like the world, if you're actually like something that you experience, something that you do, that also increases engagement, because if we are lucky because we get to create a lot of videos that actually are about an experience that someone has. So even just by putting the word you, the person watches and goes, oh, this is about me, this is about my body or my life, and that's something that we sort of attract and realize that when we weren't doing that, the videos wouldn't do as well. So there are strategies involved with it that are actually like pretty valuable to know. But that was all through like our own sort of, like you were saying.
Are you a brand?
Yes.
So the one thing I would say as a brand is getting to like the level of management that these guys are at is very hard, and it's very easy to start piling information and not getting to the point. So when I think about it from a team perspective, we have to earn eyeballs for 3 or 4 minutes, right? I would say, start with 60 to 90 seconds. The point about being direct, like have somebody look at the camera, have somebody saying to you. We're actually now going and we're in the process of taking a lot of stuff that we produced over the last 3 years. It's absolutely beautiful, but recutting it, making it shorter, getting to the point faster, having someone like Sally intro it to make it right for YouTube, because it is hard to get people's attention for that long to turn on.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about YouTube on this panel. What do you guys do on Facebook?
Yeah, so we have a large Facebook presence because we actually post a lot of memes and things like that. So we have, I think, 1.6 million likes on Facebook, and with that, we have started to put our videos on there. But Facebook doesn't monetize the videos yet, but we put old videos on Facebook, and it's pretty amazing to see the engagement and the amount of views we're getting there, because Facebook is really pushing videos now. So if you're a brand, you're interested in eyeballs, then Facebook is like an interesting place. But I don't think the creators, and I don't think it really has the sort of structure that YouTube does. Yeah.
How about you, Trinity? What do you guys think about Facebook videos?
I mean, I think it's great. I think, you never know what Facebook's going to do tomorrow. So
Yeah. Always got that.
Now you gotta pay us, basically.
Well, yeah, you're going to get hooked on the drug. But I think, the thing that's happening is you have this in-feed experience that just hasn't happened in the same way on YouTube. And so we have seen some cases where we've released video on both, and we've seen a video perform very, very well on Facebook, and it's been a little bit harder on YouTube. But again, that could all change tomorrow, so we're just going to keep an eye on the thing.
Hello, my name is Caleb Wilkerson. I am the head of video for ARP. I'm kind of in the same, situation as Katrina, you are, where I'm the brand that people think one way, and I was hired to change the perception of it through video. So I guess my question, I have a couple, if you would take them. So my first one was, when you were hired, how long did it take you to implement a strategy that people believed in and were behind?
You speak of internally?
Yeah, internally, yeah. So, like, you had to obviously do like an audit of what you were doing or what they were doing before, what did work, what didn't work, and then just say, like, hey, this is the direction you want to go in. So, like, how long from your start point to 6 months to a year, how would it take? And then, when did full screen come to the process? And then, I guess, what are your metrics of success?
Sure. We should like grab coffee. I was hired. We were hired to. So I joined 4 years ago, and there was a digital marketing team that was hired off from the outside to start solving this. And so the first experiment we launched was the GE Instagram feed, and did that 3 months into being there. Then that launched on Instagram, we launched on Tumblr. We started producing more video for YouTube. It wasn't creator video, but it was just producing more original video content that same year, immediately. Full screen, we've been working together for 2 years? 3 years? 3 years. Time flies. We've been working together for 3 years. Started around TrueView, ad buys, channel optimization, and just kind of that hygiene. I think at the end of the first year, we started doing creator experiments, and then after that, we have now brought on a full-time host for the channel. So, but we started the experiments right, because quite honestly, that's what they brought me on to do. That's what they brought the team on to do. So let's do it. That was kind of the perspective for it. You had a bunch of other questions. Wait, you have more questions?
Just an FYI, ARP has full screen as well.
Yeah, I know. Right.
Then metrics of success.
Metric. So we look at brand lift, we look at perception. We are doing more to track the talent funnel. So to have somebody go from watching a video to leaving a comment that says, I'd like to work here, to then establishing whether or not they're like a true talent lead and getting connected with the careers taking the right setting. And that doesn't necessarily mean go to g.com/careers. It might mean the next time we do an Insta walk for Power and Water in Greenville, and they're part of the engineering schools that are in that area, and make sure that they come so that they can actually see what it looks like to work at GE. So we're trying to build that out. And then I think that in some cases, we're also doing a lot of work to get closer to the businesses, because even though this content is light, or it might seem a little bit just more top line than what you think you need for hard-hitting B2B content, I don't think those lines are as rigid as they used to be. And so a great video on 3D printing, or seeing, kid presidents celebrate invention, if you've been working in aviation, for all of your life, chances are you might find that charming, and you might find that nice, and that's kind of where we started when we go into some harder hitting stuff. So using this content to drive leads and getting closer to the lead gen teams is something that we're working on right now, and will be a metric that we'll be looking at.
So, question for you guys. You have a very established voice of your channel, Katrina. How do you guys think about the voice for GE? And part of what you've done is hand some of the voice over to creators like these guys. But is that a challenge in a brand like GE to say we have an actual voice?
Yeah, we have a slide. We have a voice slide. I didn't have it here. But the slide is literally that our foundation is a love of science and a love of innovation, and how do you use science to create better solutions for the world? And that is true in very technical conversations. That is true as we're 300,000 human beings who love science. And so what happens when those human beings sit down to make a jet engine? What happens when those human beings sit down to watch Chappie? It's all kind of part of similar conversations in similar ways. And so we think about that passion point. And we think about reaching an enthusiast audience first, which is not the only audience, but that has helped us anchor our voice, as science and technology enthusiasts. And I think we share that. And when we look at partners, we look for partners who share that enthusiasm, who look at GE and say, you have 6,000 scientists. That sounds like fun. And that's how we kind of share the voice and bring other voices in.
And how do you guys establish that voice? And how do you maintain that voice? And obviously it's you, but how do you constantly keep it to what it needs to be?
I mean, it took a long time. I think one of the things to remember, it is a long-term game. And if you came to us in the first month of what we did, we'd have no real impact or reach, or you know what I mean? It was compound year on year and growing over time and building that voice and learning what worked and learning what didn't work. And so I think, we just kind of experimented with it. We go back to our first video and cringe because we hate it. It sounds weird, it looks weird. Timing is so slow. Actually go watch our first video and you'll realize the whole process has just evolved in every way. And the nice thing about YouTube, especially from a creator standpoint, if you ask most YouTubers what their budget was for their first videos, it would be $0 most likely. And I think it's just there's little risk. There's probably more risk obviously for a large corporation, but coming from a creator side when we hadn't done anything before, the risk was fairly low to experiment and see what worked, and just go here and go there. And the audience speaks to you, and the great thing about online is that you get to communicate with them and actually hear them out. So,
what does success look like for you guys? What do you look at and you're that worked, or is it views? Is it engagement? Is it comments? Is it, hey, we just think that video is awesome? What is the metric that you guys look at?
Yeah, it changes a lot for us. It's very easy when you are a YouTuber to obviously look at the views and the engagement as a measure of success, and we definitely do. A video that is successful is one that's been viewed a lot. But also, we want to ensure that we're having a positive impact and using our voice in a way that's going to make society better. So we actually, sometimes when we make our videos, we have a specific message that is really positive, and maybe a message that's harder for people to really learn about it in their day-to-day life. So we think that's successful. Even if a video doesn't do as well, or we think we've talked about something meaningful, we have a video that educates people about multiple sclerosis, that's a successful video for us. Even though it doesn't have maybe 3 million views, it has about 1.5 million now, and that's 1.5 million people who learned about and maybe got behind a disease that they didn't know anything about before. So I think that it's very easy to measure success as just numbers, but now that we have 3 years under our belt and are really starting to try and figure out how we can benefit society, we can measure success in a different way.
I wanted to ask how important you thought that you release content very consistently and very consistently, both in how much content and when you release it, in your success.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Early on in our channel, we made a lot of decisions that we realized were very good decisions. And one that we didn't do was that we don't have a specific day that we release videos on. And so that's something that is, even by YouTube, they tell you it's something you should do, it's important. And so we have been lucky in that we don't have a specific day, but we essentially release a video every week. And people do still come back and manage to find the videos. But I don't think that we are an example of best practice in that sense.
But I mean, because the first time we went, one time we were like, every Wednesday come back, and we didn't have it done every Wednesday. Like, we're never doing that again. But we do say like weekly videos, and I think it is important that people at least have a sense. It can be a monthly video. Like, there's definitely some amazing channels that maybe do visual effects and put up just like amazing videos once a month. But as long as people understand that you do it in some capacity, it could be every day, it could be every week, it could be every month. I think that's important for people to come back and know, like, hey, you're committed to YouTube and that you're making these videos for YouTube or for me, so I can come watch.
And that's why they'll click subscribe. Yeah. They know that they're going to get something consistently. So it is important. A specific day would be great, but we can't sit up here till we do it.
I'm curious to know, you talked about the science background and teaching. Was there a form of artistic background that you had, or what made you choose actually using a whiteboard as your platform and growing from there?
Well, yeah, I have a degree in biological science, but I'm minored in studio art. So I do have a minor, which means I just took less courses where I learned about art. So that does come into play. I mean, it's interesting for me now to realize I can blend with whiteboard markers. I never realized I was going to be so versed in that. So that was important, but as I like to say when people talk about art, I think it's important to know that, like anything else, like science, anyone can learn art. It's about practice. When I started making these videos, they were horrible. They didn't look, my art degree did not come into play on a whiteboard. But over time, you learn, and like science and like art, anyone can learn them. It's just about how much work you put into it. But I do have an art background, but I think I could have done it better.
And the last thing you said, so people can, I feel like I can't even draw a stick figure proportional, you know?
Yeah.
So, any advice or a certain type of platform people can actually start learning that type of, utilizing whiteboards?
Yeah, I mean, whiteboard, as a concept and even as using it as a tool to make something simple. Honestly, I don't know if there's many classes you can take, but all I have to say is that like anything, if you just start doing it and start practicing, you'll be able to learn and teach yourself. I think that it's like art, you can teach yourself art, and that's something that's important to know.
So, in our final question for you guys, we're going to be back doing this panel next year. What are we talking about? What's exciting? What's going to be exciting?
Somebody would ask this question. I think we'll be talking about virtual reality content.
I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah, so honestly, we are really, we have 3 weeks ahead in our mind. Most of the times we're really, really busy, but I don't know.
I think, yeah, part of what's happening now is there's so much content, and it's just this information of infobesity is what some people call it, and I think we'll be figuring out how, it's great that there's so many curators, but where does that go? I'm not totally sure, but it's definitely, will be interesting to see how YouTube even evolves as a platform, but also how Facebook evolves as a platform, maybe we'll all be Facebookers next year, I don't know, but I think
we live our life essentially on the cutting edge, and every day is a case study for us. We're always doing research and thinking about things, and one thing we've learned is to never be overly confident that you know what's happening, so I think that's why for us it's hard to give.
It's experimental. It literally is let's see how today goes in terms of with Facebook video, as a perfect example, it was all of a sudden everyone slowly was realizing hey, if a video is posted, it gets a lot more engagement. Oh, now the video player looks a little different. Facebook's obviously putting more interest in this, and so just being aware of those things, and that's even for us. Yeah, we've been doing this for 2 years and kind of get comfortable, but it's okay, you have to step outside of that and be what is it? I'm not sure what that will mean next year. I think
we're never very confident, to be honest.
Which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
Just be unsure and be willing to not switch on a dime, but be able to be flexible.
Well, thank you guys so much. It was a great panel, and I appreciate it. Thank you guys.
Thank you.